One of the greatest mysteries in the Torah is whether or not Yitro or Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses, took him up on this offer made in Numbers 10 to stay with the Israelites. There are many opinions, and it's not clear in the text whether or not he did stay with them and take Moses up on this offer. I'm going to present evidence that he likely did stay with them and was probably present during the incident with the spies. In fact, I'm going to say that he was the leader of the troop of spies, and show you how it's all connected to the Nephilim and the giants through the Cainite people, those from Cain. So those descendants of Cain, those from that area, and reincarnations of Cain, while also showing how to extract hidden information from the Hebrew text itself. Now, these are all techniques used by the Kabbalists. I'm simply applying them here. So, again, Numbers 10, verse 29. Moses said to Hobab, son of Ruel the Midianite, Moses' father-in-law, we are setting out for the place of which the Lord has said, I will give it to you. Come with us, and we will be generous with you, for the Lord has promised to be generous with Israel. And we know that Hobab is Jethro. He was known by at least 7 names, and I've found probably more than that. He's got at least 10, I would say. Here you see Ruel, which was mentioned, Yetr, Yitro or Jethro, Hobab, Heber, which will come up later, Heber the Cainite being Jethro or one of his sons or descendants. Heber is also the name that he shares with Moses. Most people are not aware of this, but they share a name. Cain, which is Cainite or Kenite, because he is the Cainite or Kenite. He comes from Cain. And Putiel. So you can see that he is referring to Moses, or to Jethro. And Jethro replies, I will not go, but will return to my native land. And Moses says, please do not leave us, inasmuch as you know where we should camp in the wilderness and can be our guide. So if you come with us, we will extend to you the same bounty that the Lord grants us. And then it's not clear as to whether Jethro took him up on this offer. It kind of ends there, so it's a big mystery. Now I'll show you how this is all connected to the Cainites through Jethro, the Nephilim, and the giants, and the spies. So, the spies are spying on the Nephilim here, and in gematria, ha-Nephilim, the Nephilim, has the same value as ha-Cainim, the Cainites. So you can see here there's a clear link in gematria, but it goes even further than that. If you apply the Atbash cipher, which is an ancient cipher going back, thousands of years, it's a very simple cipher as well. So anytime, if you take the word for the Nephilim, and substitute, so flip the Hebrew alphabet 180 degrees. So anytime there would be an aleph, you'd substitute a tav. Anytime there's a beit, you'd substitute a shin. So in English, it would be anytime there's an A, you'd substitute a Z or a Z. Anytime there's a B, you'd substitute a Y, and so on. So you understand. And here's what you get when you do that, right here. And this word has the value 175, which is a match for ha-Caini, the singular version, so the Cainite. So let's look at that again. In normal gematria, the Nephilim is the same value as the Cainites. Using the Atbash cipher, you get something that's 175, which is the value of ha-Caini, the Cainite. So there's an undeniable link between the two, and when you read Genesis 6:4, which is the first time you see the Nephilim, it's the only thing that makes sense that these are those from Cain who would have been alive and around at the time. So here now we'll fast forward to Numbers 13. This is where the spies are sent out and they come across the Nephilim and the giants. But here you'll see why I think there's evidence that Yitro or Jethro was there. So the Lord said to Moses, "Send men to scout the land of Canaan." Now before we go on, let me ask you just two questions, or one question. Who would have known the area and the opposition better than Jethro? We already know that Moses just said that he knew the wilderness better than anyone. And if we're spying out the Nephilim and the giants, who are Cainites, like Jethro, who would have known the opposition better? No one. So send the men out to scout the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelite people. Send one man from each of their ancestral tribes, each one a chieftain among them. If you look at the Hebrew very closely, you'll notice that send the men to scout the land of Canaan. The word for scout is right here, and it just happens to have the name Yitro contained in it. And actually, if you strip away the vowels, it says and Yitro and Jethro. So a little hint that he was among them. And then you go down to verse 21. They went up and scouted the land from the wilderness of Tsin to Rehob at Lebo Hamath. This verse here has at least 3 or 4 names in it. And they're all related to the Cainites, and they're all related to spies, as you'll see here. So, as we said, you can see Jethro's name here, and Jethro. You can also see a name that is connected to the Cainites, again, with Yael, the wife of Heber, the Cainite, who we mentioned earlier, is also a descendant of Jethro. So, Yael, wife of Heber the Cainite, from Judges 4. Sisera, meanwhile, had fled on foot to the tent of Yael, wife of Heber the Cainite. For there was friendship between King Jabin of Hazor and the family of Heber the Cainite. And of course, Sisera ended up dead because Yael killed him with a tent peg through the head. So you see here, Yael and Heber. We'll go back to our verse. And actually, in the next verse, you see Yael here. And then Heber found in Hebron. But let's go back one verse up. You can see here, Lebo Hamath. Hamath is also associated with the Cainites. As you see here, 1 Chronicles 2:55, families of scribes that dwelt at Yabetz. These are the Cainites, who came from Hamath, father of the house of Rechab, being the rechabites, who were very famous for not drinking wine. And you'll remember when they sent the spies out, the Torah mentions that it was grape season, and they came back with grapes. So they spread doubt among the Israelites about the land that they had scouted, saying, "The country we have traversed and scouted is one that devours its settlers, and all the people we saw there are men of great size." We're talking about the giants here. The next verse, we saw the Nephilim there. And the Anakites are part of the Nephilim. So it actually says the B'nai Anak, children of Anak. Anak means giant. Anak is a specific giant, but it also means giant. And we looked like grasshoppers to ourselves, so we must have looked in their eyes as well. Now here's something very interesting about this verse. It's one of the weirdest verses in the Torah. I've shown this before, but if you look very closely, you'll see that there's 2 spellings. Look here very carefully. You'll notice an extra yud right here. And then compare it to this spelling. There's no yud here. Right here. What is going on here? Why would the Torah have two spellings of the same, what we think is the same word, in the same verse? There must be something weird going on here. And actually, if you use the Atbash cipher on the text of the Torah, so instead of using it on this word, you'll find that actually they both have the same value. So even though there's an extra letter here, this spelling has the same value as this spelling if you use the secret Atbash cipher. Very, very weird. I've never come across anything like this before. So let's go back up one more time. There's another name in this verse here. You'll see here the name Rechab. Very interesting, because Rechab is a woman who is connected to spies as well. The spies had not yet gone to sleep. This is from Joshua 2, when she came up to them on the roof. She said to them, "I know that the Lord has given the country to you because dread of you has fallen upon us, and all the inhabitants of the land are quaking before you." This is very interesting because you'll remember that Jethro also said something very similar. Like, "Now I know that the Lord is greater than all gods," and then he gives a reason for it. So evidence. The Gentiles require evidence. And you can see that this is actually, there's a hint here that it's referring to the Nephilim, because it says, "The dread of you has fallen upon us," the fallen ones. And here you see the root Nephil or Nephle for the root of Nephilim. And then one verse below it, "For we have heard how the Lord dried up the waters of the Sea of Reeds for you when you left Egypt, and what you did to Sihon and Og, the two Amorite kings across the Jordan whom you doomed." Og is the name of a giant. So you can see here that Rechab is hidden in this verse that has to do with the Nephilim and the giants and the spies. What are the odds that her name would be hidden right there? And then Numbers 13, where all of this goes down, is called Shelach. It's the Torah portion named Shelach, which you can see here. Right here. Interestingly, we're talking about Cainites this entire time, those who came from Cain, including reincarnations of Cain. Here is text from the Gate of Reincarnations, a very famous Kabbalistic text by Yitzhak Luria and Rabbi Chaim Vital. There's talking here about all the people in the Torah and the entire Hebrew Bible that came from Cain. This is an amazing list. And you'll see many of the people that we're talking about. Here's Jethro. Here's Heber the Kenite, his wife Yael. And you'll also find on this list Shelach ben Yehuda. And, many others. Samson, Samuel the prophet, Pinchas, whose grandfather is Jethro. You'll see Jesse, the son of David, and even David's brother, and so on. Ezekiel the prophet. So it just lets you know how important these Cainites are, and how significant and hidden this whole concept is.